Hello everybody, I hope you guys are all having a fantastic week. It's been a pretty cold but a pretty successful one over here this week. I finally done something that you guys have been wanting for a long time, which is starting another project that is not related to the Mansard roof. Of course, that is still a very much so an ongoing process and will not be stopping anytime soon. And I do have some really cool updates to share about that as well. And in fact, let's go ahead and start with the update of that because there's some really pretty pieces. So here we are back with some of the most beautiful woodwork that's going to be going on the Mansard roof. And one thing you might be asking yourself is, Caleb, where exactly do these go on the Mansard roof? And they actually go on either side of the dormer. Now when the house was originally built, it had these pieces, or things that were extremely similar. Again, we're working from a photo, because these pieces did not survive. In fact, in the photo, one of them is already missing by the time the photo was taken, which is when the house is only 6 years old, because the house was built in 1890, the photo was taken in 1896, and the one on the right side of the big dormer is already missing at that point. So it isn't a stretch to say that these scroll work pieces probably have not existed on the house for at least 100 years, probably longer. So this is putting back a really original detail that nobody alive has seen. Eric's daughter, Claire, actually made these. This is all scroll saw work and is absolutely incredible. She's an absolute prodigy when it comes to stuff like this and has made some of the more delicate pieces on the house, including the corbels. And she came up with the design for here using the most amount of information she can from the photo. Now, these probably aren't exactly 110% the exact design that was on the house in 1890, but they're extremely close. Now, when these were being designed out and figured out, one thing everybody agreed upon is that these needed to be a bit beefier than the old ones, because obviously the older version of these failed really quickly in the house's history. So these are almost 3 inches wide. You can see the scroll is a separate piece. They're glued on, and it should last a lot longer than the original ones, provided we don't get some serious tornado, which, you know, this will be the least of my concern blowing off the house if that happens. For color on these, the main color is definitely going to be this lighter green, but the darker green, this color here, just as a refresher, it's that same color, will be going on the inside of this just to give everything a bit more pop and to pull these scrolls out away from the surrounding darker colors. So you'll have the dark slate right here off to the side, and then it'll be connected to the green, so it should all flow into the green of the uprights on the dormers. And yeah, these are going to look absolutely amazing. Now, when it comes to the Sunburst that I was working on last time, I've actually returned that to Eric. It's got all the coats of paint it will need except for one final coat. But of course I don't want to apply that until we fill all the holes with glazing putty. Everything is assembled, so one final coat on it, but the key there is after assembly. So Eric is actually currently assembling everything again, putting it all back together, making it all fit and work and look absolutely beautiful. So that should be something that should be coming next week. Again, we're just kind of assembling all of the pieces. And once we have all of the pieces ready to be put in the basket of the lift and taken up there, basically it's a day of just putting everything back. But what's really holding everything up is the really long lead time on these coats of paint. Especially now with the weather changing, what used to take about a day and a half to 2 days to dry is now taking between 3 and 4. And basically half of the house has been turned into areas for trim to dry. Like my workshop, for instance. You can see all the different boards and things that I've got set up. This is a normal plastic like folding table, and I've got 2x4s trying to stretch out and give it as much room as possible to have the most surface area to lay as many boards out as possible. So yeah, that's mostly what my weeks have been filled up with since we last spoke, is just tons and tons of painting. And of course there will be more painting because that's more or less what my life has become. But I'm all right with it. If the paint does what the manufacturer says it will do, I won't have to touch it again in my lifetime. You know, I spent how long this summer stripping paint from the cornice? That alone was, what, a month-long project? Imagine if I had to do that every 10 years because the paint started peeling. But in the end, this stuff will all be well worth the wait. So let's get over to the main project this week, which is the starting of the shower down in the vet clinic. So I'll see you on the other side of time lapse. So finally, something that's been a long time coming. I've started to work on the walls down here in the basement. The walls are so important because it gets me to one of the things I've been wanting for a long time, which is a shower. But we'll get to that in a second. Now, the reason I had to frame this section and I didn't have to do much framing back here is because these walls aren't perfectly straight. So to straighten them back out, because I need a perfect square for the shower, I had to frame them out a little bit. And also I'm trying to keep in line, of course, with these really beautiful tiles. So anything I can do to enhance the beauty of this room and this tile is, of course, always of the utmost importance. I mean, how can you neglect this, right? So everything had to be planned out according to that. Now, originally, I had the opening for this wall headed this way. So when you exited the shower, you'd come straight out here. I've scratched that plan, and I've actually made it so where you would exit out that way. And I think this will work. This is a decent configuration and should allow for you to easily go to that shelf there, which will be full of towels and toiletries, which will be very nice. It's a perfect fit, actually. I will say one of the bigger problems and why this wall actually took me quite a bit of time to get together is because of the shower type that I'm putting in here. This is a needle shower, and I promise it is less terrifying than it sounds. Essentially, if we go to the front here, you can see there are 4 knobs. You have hot and cold, shower, which of course turns on the shower head up here, which is cocked over for some reason. And at the bottom, we have this little one here that says needle. Now what that's referring to is it's sending water down across these pipes, down to these U-shaped pieces here on the bottom. And it might be somewhat difficult to see, but there are little holes in this all the way down both sides of the pipe and on the other side as well. So when you turn on the needle function, these little holes will squirt water at you. Very thin little jets of water, of course. And so you kind of get a surround shower with these 2 shapes, which I can't tell you if it feels good or bad because I've never used one in my entire life. I've only ever seen them, and even then only one. But I've never seen one on. I've never heard anybody's experience of using one of these things. But I found this one and it was a good deal. And so I had to build this room to exactly fit this shower. There wasn't a shower down here before. This little bathroom did exist. There was a toilet here and a sink here, which is basically, that's how it's going to back. That's going to be a wall again. So this was a little bathroom here in the basement that was probably put in some time around the floor. So, 1915 to 20, somewhere in there. All of this was constructed. But it's felt like an appropriate place to put a shower. And this, being probably about a 1900s model of needle shower, felt more appropriate here than it did anywhere in the Victorian part of the house or the older 1890s part of the house. So I think this is a really good fit here. And with that as well, you saw me probably struggling to make for sure that everything was perfectly square when it came to this box. Because again, this thing mounts to the wall. It doesn't sit on the floor. You can see it's suspended. So this box has to be perfectly square. Not only do I have to take into account the measurements of the shower itself, but the drywall thickness and the tile thickness as well to make for sure that this hits the wall exactly on both sides. I'm sure there's a minimal amount of wiggle room within this system, but it's minimal, not more probably than a 1/4 inch. So everything has to be pretty much perfect. So I took my sweet time constructing this thing just to make for sure everything was straight and square and level, which I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do that with 2x4s from Lowe's, but man, it's an issue because everything is warped, everything is crooked, nothing's straight. So I had to really go through all of my stacks of wood and try to find the straightest possible pieces to make this thing work. So if you can close your eyes and imagine how this is going to look, It's going to be a enclosed shower room with subway tiles up all 3 of the walls. There will be one more wall here that I haven't quite built yet. The floor design, I'm going to get square tiles, just like the tiles that make up the rest of the floor down here. And it's going to be a shower pan that's white in the middle with a design similar to this around the edges as a border. And I think it's going to look absolutely magnificent down here. Now, does that mean I'm immediately going to turn my attention to finishing out the rest of this bathroom? No. And the reason why is I have a toilet upstairs that works. I have a sink upstairs that works. What I don't have is a shower. And yes, for anybody who asks, I do have access to a shower. It just doesn't happen to be in my house. My father lives about 15 minutes from me. And so when I need a shower, I go over to his house. I'm not walking around perpetually disgusting, I promise. But having access to a shower here would be just the best thing in the world. A shower will make my life so much nicer. And I'm really excited to see how the whole needle operation of this type of shower performs. I mean, I think it's always a cool thing and a good day when I get to experience history, when I can actually physically touch it and experience it just how the people of the past experienced it. And this is just another little taste of that. And again, it's something that I think will be really cool when people get to come and visit and see this place. They get to do exactly what I get to do, which is experience a little taste of history. So another really cool thing, really excited to get this project going. I've had this needle shower sitting around for like 2 years now, and finally be able to install it. Oh, I'm excited. It's gonna be really, really cool. I know it's been a while, so I wanted to give you guys a classic Kim for scale. So this is about how the needle shower will look as far as size, height, all that stuff. The little needle should come out and clean most of your body off and the top for your head area. So that should work just about perfectly. What do you think?
It's pretty good, but we can't forget the floor is going to go in. So maybe just a smidgen higher.
All right, so
because I'm 5'8", so I am wearing Crocs though. You don't typically wear Crocs in the shower, so.
That's where the room of error is the Crocs.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go.
It's going to be fun to take a no hair washing shower though.
You can move that head, you know that, right?
Shower cap.
You can move this. See?
Oh, very nice.
I'll probably push it to the corner maybe instead, like that.
Yeah, I did not know you could move it. Okay, that's all better then.
You learn something new every day.
Sure you do.
So onward to the next thing and the last thing of this week. I found some really, really cool stuff on eBay and I can't wait to show it to you. So lastly this week, I found a really cool set of listings on eBay and was able to work out a deal for everything all at once. So I got a really big lot of new Holland Brown stuff. Stuff I had never seen before or online anywhere. A lot of the stuff I don't think has ever been cataloged. From what I know from this lot, it was just found in a filing cabinet. So it's cool to see so much Holland Brown stuff in one lot. It is a lot newer than anything I have as well. But let me just show it to you because I think it's some of the most incredible stuff I've seen. So here we are, all the various different items to show you guys. There's a lot here and stuff, realistically, it's almost impossible to find. And again, be able to find so much of it at once. Now, all this stuff is from around 1925, so all of this stuff is much later, or at least a decent amount later than most of the stuff I've found previously. You know, the original catalog that I have is from 1892. I have one from around 1904. One from probably about 1918. And this stuff all being 1925. Starting here, this is a bunch of pages, which all have 2 hole clips for or holes for a binder. So I'm imagining this is some form of Holland Brown catalog that's been disassembled or taken apart. But there are various machines here, machines that I've never seen before. And it's really interesting about this entire lot is you can really see that Holland Brown was making a real concerted effort in the 20s to stay up with the times. They're moving well away from belt-fed machines and putting direct drive motors on a lot of these things. And one of their big advertising pushes, you can see this is a motor here, so this takes the place of what would have been a leather belt like I have on a lot of my machines. And there seems to be a real emphasis on ball bearings. Everything says ball bearing on it. And they're trying to emphasize, because the old school machines had a type of bearing called Babbitt. As a quick little example of that, here is part of a hanger. So this would hang from the ceiling and you'd have a shaft run through the middle. You'd have all your pulleys or the wheels on the ceiling that come off of the shaft and drive power to the machines. But you can see inside of here, there's a shiny metal. I believe it was mostly a zinc and lead mixture. So a softer metal, you can see it shiny right there. And essentially you would throw oil through these holes right here. These are oil ports. And it would lubricate this area so the steel shaft would spin inside of this. And so that's what they would use before ball bearings. But in all of this set, you can see they're emphasizing going away from that old school, more maintenance heavy system of Babbitt bearings and going to the ball bearings. I haven't ever seen a whole lot of Holland Brown stuff talk about ball bearings. And that's definitely the emphasis on everything. Here is a really cool postcard that I suppose they sent out a while back, again in the 20s. The back, I guess somebody was using it with a Sharpie or writing letters. I don't know what's going on here, but this looks like bleed through from another piece of paper that was on top of this when they were writing. And then there is a stamp on this one that says Republic Machinery Co. Looks like out of Rockford, Illinois. So another interesting thing. Not sure about that company, but the postcard's really cool. Honestly, though, I think I almost find the envelope it came in a little bit cooler. So you have the three machines here on the front, and on the back, their really cool logo, which has an eagle inside of a cog, and in the eagle's claw is a little cutter head, much like this one here. So it's kind of cool to see the eagle have the things that actually shape and cut wood in its claws. You can also see that this was posted in 1934 on November 12th. But yeah, the real winner there is definitely the eagle logo. I think that is really cool. This lot here is a whole bunch of magazine advertisements that all have Holland Brown on them. I think specifically these three advertisements are really cool. Just, I like them graphically. So the graphic design of this kind of shape is really cool. I love the colors they're using, the orange, the gold, and the teal. And this one being printed on the yellow paper I think is pretty cool as well. And then so yeah, just graphically pretty amazing. Before we come back to these three, which are my absolute favorites out of everything, there were these extremely odd lot of glossy photos, kind of like modeling photos that they made for some of the machines, which is really interesting. But you see the H&B on there, Holland Brown, St. Louis, Missouri, or St. Louis, USA on this one. This is a number 221. I believe this is some sort of rip saw. Oh, there we go. View of number 221, straight edge ripper with ball or roller bearings. So, you know, the whole description printed on cloth on the back and then glued to the glossy, which is really interesting. So these are like, I don't know, pinup photos of Holland Brown machines. Like, look at this number. Wow. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to see these promotional photos. Who knows if these were even necessarily supposed to be released this way? I don't know. I've never seen anything like it for any other brand, let alone Holland Brown. But yeah, it's a whole bunch of these. I mean, we have this rip saw here, bandsaw. This is a mortiser. And so this just is various things. And I don't know. I don't think I would ever see this sort of thing again. Maybe they did this more often. Maybe this was standard procedure. I've never seen anything like it. So to me, it's an extremely interesting piece of the history here at the house. Now we come back to my absolute favorite three items that came with this lot. These are 3 little brochures that they sent out at some point. They're all, I think, from very similar eras. Let me take them out of their little plastic covers and we'll have a better look at them. So these 3 little brochures, I think, are not only amazing for obviously the history, the connection to Holland Brown and all that, but just from a graphic standpoint, these things are really amazing. So these are the front covers of the 3. We have the key to production problems, which has the vague theme of yellow, let's say, because everything in this, the second color is yellow. We have the red one, which is increased production, with the Holland Brown woodworking machine code at the bottom. And then this one, which I think maybe these 2 are my favorite, because of the style of the airplane. Again, we're talking 1925, so this is a very modern airplane at the time. You know, and over the ocean, where accuracy counts. So I guess they were doing, I guess maybe this one went out to airplane manufacturers. And you know, hey, when you're building an airplane, accuracy does count. And this is sold by Gulfston Scott Manufacturing Co. But don't be fooled, this is for sure another Holland Brown pamphlet. So let me unfold one of these and I'll show you what's going on the insides. So you can see on each one, the color carries through to the inside. And they have these little fold ups so you can see the woodworking machines that are dependable. And you open them up and you have this just display of the various machines. One of which I have, which is the number 130 sash sticker. So a machine to make windows or molding. And maybe my favorite machine I own. But these are just incredible little pieces of the history of the home and things I never thought I would really necessarily find. The yellow one here has something slightly different. I think this one is slightly older. Machines that produce and increase profits. But these are types of things that just don't survive. I mean, the catalogs, of course, they survive. People don't throw away books quite as often as they do little pamphlets and pieces of paper like this. This is, you know, you look at it, you order what you want, and you toss them in the trash. So the fact that these survive is pretty incredible. And I think realistically why I like these so much is because of the graphical elements on all of this. You know, the factory here, you know, increased production. It's this kind of whole feeling to it, like, look what our products can do for you. And of course, you know, it is just advertising. But I think it's interesting to look back at old advertising, the old graphics. And to be honest, these 3 designs, I really want to turn into t-shirt designs in some way, shape, or form, incorporating their logo. Again, with the eagle with a cutter head in its claws. So again, it's one of those things. I get really giddy about this stuff because it's a direct connection to this house, to the man who built my house, to the company he started and founded and made a success. And even though I know about some of the earlier success, it's still cool to see them succeeding in the 20s. Of course, a lot of companies didn't make it out of the 30s. Great Depression killed a lot of things, and Holland Brown really isn't much of an exception to that. Seems to me they existed for a little bit beyond the 30s, but in a much, much smaller capacity. So anything I can find that's pushing that threshold to see that they were successful for longer and longer and longer is always a pretty exciting thing to me. And also out there in the field, the machines I do find are typically more from this era than they are from the really early days. I mean, I don't think I'll ever probably find too many machines from the 1870s when they started. But I definitely do see things that were built around the time my house was built. But they're more few and far between, and a lot more things look like this. But you guys will have to let me know what you guys think about, you know, maybe turning some of these designs into more t-shirts. Of course, I want to get things that are more oriented towards the house itself here very shortly. I definitely want to do a dormer design here soon with half a dormer saggy and disgusting and broken, and half the dormer beautiful and put back together and perfect and like it would have been presented the day it was built. So I have other things in mind, of course, as well. But really, most of this stuff I want because I want it. But like I said, you guys will have to let me know if this is something you guys would like to see. It's been a while since I've offered any kind of new designs on anything, so I think these things would be something really cool to put out there for you guys. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Until then, bye-bye.